Pick up your gear and open your chests. Throw on your armor and head out on a quest. Hey, hey, it's a brand new day. On the Sword Coast, your allies will help with blades and bows and magic as well. Hey, hey, heroes on their way. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, did you want them? Idle champions, you will say it again. Idle champions. From Waterdeep to Icewind Dale, head out to Chull or Shadowfell, hey, hey. Together we stay. Walk to the monsters, walk to the boss, walk to the right, it's never a loss, hey, hey. Bad guys to slay. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, did you want them? Idle champions, you will say it again. Idle champions.
Hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of Gaarawarr's Guide, the tutorial show. I'm Gaarawarr. On this show we talk about a specific topic for like an hour, and by we I mean me, myself, and I. And then in the second hour I do a Q&A. Helping with that today is Trevor in the mod pod. Trevor, everybody. Remember, there's an A hiding in there somewhere. Oh, jeez. Folks, my brain did not let me sleep much last night, so this is the version of me you get today. Hopefully we make it through the show. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. So yeah, if you have a question, throw it in chat. Trevor will grab it and put a little document for me, and I will answer it in the second half of the show. I promise. I will get to it. Today's topic, because an event just started, means we're talking about the event today. So we've got Dragondown Year 5, and that means we're going to talk about Merylwyn, we're going to talk about Solis, and we're going to talk about Nova. We're going to talk about all three of those champions today, and we'll talk about the event in general. We'll start with that, folks. If you're newer to the game, first off, welcome. But if you're new to the game, normally you just see like the Grand Tour of the Sword Coast over here at the top of this banner, and but you know, when an event pops up, they kind of cue to you that, hey, priority now is Dragondown, or whatever the event's name is. This one's Dragondown. You click it, you're taken to a new map with a new adventure node, a new favor notification. Dragondown's favor is Joaquin's favor. Joaquin Phoenix is usually where I go with for that one. But that's because I'm old. And then there's these token things, Dragon Claws this time around. Event tokens are what you use to actually start a run. This is one of the few places in the game where you actually have to use some kind of currency to actually do something. And you know, events are the big place for that. When you click on this, you will see three adventures, one for each of the champions that's available that year for the event. So it's always the three most recent champions. So we're Maryland being this year's, the year 5 champion, Solis being year 4, Nova being year 3. The year 1 and 2 champions no longer available in the event. You can only get those in a time gate. You'll still see their achievements and stuff under the event heading. So when you go in there, you'll see them. But don't worry about that. You'll take care of that later. I promise. At some point. Starting off with these, the reward, instead of a chest here, it will show you a little icon of the champion. And you do each of these starting adventures, and you unlock your champions for free. That's how this game works. That's how this game works. And on those first adventures, there will be no restrictions down here in this. It'll just, you complete Area 50. The cost will be less than what it shows here. For the 2 older champions, they're on discount. Basically, their costs are all discounted, so like 25% of the normal cost. So like 25 tokens for each of the first ones, and 100 for this one for the starting ones. Because there's no restrictions, I like to treat those as favor runs, because you need favor. You start off with 0 in an event. You need as much favor as you can get. You at least need like in the E8 to E10 range. Because that'll make all the variants that show up show as easy, like this. Bam! So once you complete those adventures, you will get 3 variants for each champion. And the rewards for those variants are a guaranteed gold chest for that champion. So doing the variants is how you actually get some nice gear for them, hopefully. So that's gonna be how that works. Again, making them all show as easy as about EO8. That's like this third one is going to be the hardest with the highest area goal. This one's going to be at least in the 5 EO8 range to make show as green easy. I always recommend for variants in this game. Like, why bang your head against something difficult when you can just get some favor and make it show up as easy and make it a lot easier on yourself? So you do that. Try to get favor before diving into these, and your life will be so much happier. Apparently the game wants to refresh trials at 7 a.m. That's new. Alright, folks. No, I can't do anything. Of course. So treat the first basic unlock adventures as favor runs. That'll get you on your way towards grabbing a decent amount of favor. Once you've done the adventures, it turns into this free play with the chest in a question mark there in the middle. You can kind of see it. That means you get a random chest as a reward once you complete Area 50. This is how you get extra gear for your champions. The cost starts at 500 of the tokens, Dragon Claws. And every time you do a run, it goes up by 500. So that's 1,000 until you get to a cap of 2,500. So 2,500 is going to be the most you'll ever get charged for a free play. From there on out, it's going to be 2,500 a pop. This is an important number to think about because, again, this gives a random chest, either a silver or gold for that champion. The chances of getting a gold are 1 in 3. However, there is a pity, so 33%. However, there's a pity timer. Basically a bad luck protection. So if you don't get a gold chest in your first 3 free plays for this champion, the 4th one guarantees you one. So you're guaranteed a gold chest every 4 runs. But at your worst luck, but at your best luck, you could get one every single run, right? So this is important because that means in 4 runs, you're guaranteed 1 gold chest and 3 silver chests at minimum. That's 10,000 tokens. In the shop, there is an option to just spend 10,000 tokens and buy a single gold chest. Please don't do that. Pretty please, for me. Go get yourself, just go do 4 runs. Grab yourself potentially more gold chests. Right? Makes sense. Yeah. So, but the chests in the shop are there because if it's Monday morning, June 21st, which is when this event ends. Wait, no, June 20th. Monday morning, June 20th, when this event ends, specifically speaking. And you just don't have time to do 4 runs, you can just get yourself a gold chest and call it a day, right? So it's there for a reason. Just it's not there just so that you spend your tokens on chests, because that's not a great idea. All right. We're going to go through each of these. Each variant is going to have different restrictions. They start off, and the first one is always going to be to Area 75. The second to always to 125. Third always to 175. That's just how event variants work. The cost for each one goes up. Again, it's a discount of 250 for the older champions, like for the previous year's champions, 625 and then 1250. That means for the most recent year champion, regular price, 1,000 tokens to start, 2,500 to start, and 5,000 to start. Again, this goes back to me saying, hey, make sure these show is easy, because if you try to do this, loyal friends, and you spend 5,000 Dragon Claws up front, but then you can't even get past like area 125 with the restrictions, you just wasted like 5,000 tokens. So yeah, try to get them all to green first, and there's some tips and tricks we'll talk about here. Okay, so failed perception for Nova. This is Nova's formation layout. You'll see down here on the right. This is actually the bottom right. This is actually probably the best layout for a new player trying to get favor. So if you're doing free plays just to get favor, this is solid. Sure, it's a 3 tank line, but you're getting there's 2 tanks in this event, folks. So you've got plenty of tanks to run this, and lots of adjacencies, which a lot of champions like. This one ends up working out real well. Area 75, only champions with Wisdom 14 or lower can be used. So there's a restriction right away. That if you're new, you might not have a lot of champions that you can throw in here, and that's going to make it more difficult. Whenever an enemy spawns, there's a 25% chance that it will be an illusory enemy and won't count towards quest progress or drop gold. When an illusory enemy is killed with a normal attack, the champion that killed the enemy is stunned for 10 seconds. So some real interesting restrictions here. This is a bit of a swarm event, so that they're throwing stuff at you, extra enemies at you that don't do anything and can actually stun your DPS, which means potentially more enemies building up on your tanks. But again, with a 3 front tank line, because the enemies are going to distribute across the tank line, they'll end up taking less damage. So, again, as long as it shows as green, you're going to be fine here. Trance Travelers, 2 of the slots in your formation are affected by a magical spell that's causing folks around Luskan to start snoring. The affected slots change every 15 seconds by moving to a random adjacent slot. Champions in affected slots must concentrate on not falling asleep so they do not attack, and ultimates are disabled. However, their abilities still function, so they're still buffing your party. So the key here is to remember that you're just going to be down a couple attackers. It may end up on your primary DPS, which means you're just going to have to tank for 15 seconds. So that's the big restriction here, is that it's going to slow you down. It's going to slow you down a bit. Dolgrim Incursion, the final one for Nova. Only champions with an intelligence of 14 or higher can be used. Nova begins in the formation. It can't be moved. And that's this C that you'll see right here in the front middle. That's a C for champion. That C right there is where Nova's going to be. Dolgrims appear at a rate of 2 per wave. They drop no gold and do not count towards quest progress. Dolgrim's movement speed is doubled and their damage is increased by 400%. So again, just to rush your party and try to kill them before you can... Try to kill your party before you can kill them kind of situation. And you are restricted with int 14 or higher. So again, with restrictions like this, you can check these restrictions out. You can go into a free play. Like, again, run a Nova free play. Try to only put in champions with intelligence 14 or higher, and Nova in your front line. Build out that formation, and then in the free play, try to get to 175. Because one of 2 things will happen. One, you fly right by 175 with that restriction, which means you're probably in a good place to do that, to do this variant, even without taking into account this other restriction of the 400% damage. Or 2, you fail, in which case hey, I probably need more favor, because if you're missing champions, picking up extra favor can help you over-level the champions that you have compared to what they would normally be at. while doing that level, giving them more power and more taking ability and allowing you to complete stuff that normally you can't on these lower level goal variants. So keep that in mind. Remember, you get to that one while you're in the free play, you try it out, you fail or you do well, then you don't stop, you just switch over to a pushing formation, your full regular pushing formation, treat it like a favor run, get some more favor, and then go knock this out. Okay. For Solis, first variant, Solis starts in the formation. She can be moved or removed, so there's no indicator here because you can move her anywhere you want. Only champions with a strength of 13 or higher can be used, so again, stat restrictions, lots of them this time around in this event. But that's it. So as long as you have, you're going to build out a formation, champion strength 13 or higher, rock it out. Solis obviously going to be in your tank line somewhere. Not too difficult there as long as you can flesh out the formation. Tiers of Tier. Solis starts in the formation because she can be removed or removed. While in outdoor areas, rain falls, increasing the speed and attack damage of enemies by 100%. Champions' base attack cooldowns are increased by 1 second. Only champions with a wisdom of 13 or higher. Oh, jeez. That'd be real easy. 13 or higher can be used. Again, they're doing each of these to try to get you to use Solis in a different, some of her different forms, which we'll talk about when we cover Solis. And again, restricting you with stat restrictions. Yeah. The Endless Claws. Solis starts in the formation. She can be moved or removed. Crawling claws appear in each area. They deal 200% additional damage. When a crawling claw is destroyed by anyone other than Solis, it immediately respawns and continues its attack. Crawling claws do not count towards quest progress, nor do they drop any gold. So again, this is just a swarm. This is just a swarm version. And folks, Solis isn't a DPS, so it's not. It doesn't. She's not really going to be the one killing things. So you just kind of have to build around the fact that there's going to be a lot of these things swarming your formation, and just kind of live with it. All right. For Merylwyn, a neutral position. Merylwyn starts in the formation. She can be moved, but not removed. Only neutral champions on the good and evil axis can deal damage. This one, folks. People who don't know D&D get confused about this all the time. So for you, let me try to clarify. There is a neutral on two different axes. Like, think of it, like we're talking math class. There's like a lawful and a neutral chaotic, and there's a good neutral evil, or if you want to do it this way, either way. So neutral could show up possibly in two different positions in the champ UI. If you see the word good or evil when looking at a champion, and it says neutral good or neutral evil, that's not the one they're talking about here. Because if it's a neutral on the good evil axis, you shouldn't see the word good or evil. Right? So yeah. If you look at your DPS, like, why isn't this champion doing damage? It says neutral good or it says neutral evil. It's because that's the wrong axis. You want something that says lawful neutral or just neutral. That means it's true neutral. That means it's neutral. Or a chaotic neutral, right? So for this one, honestly, you have a starter champion that works. That's Ashara. She is lawful neutral. So look at that as being your DPS, as her being your DPS here. Catnap. Merylwyn starts in the formation. She can be moved, but not removed. Champion's normal attack cooldowns are increased by 3 seconds. So they're really slowing you down here. That's because Merylwyn has stuff that speeds your attack speed up. So they're trying to make you utilize that to get back to normal. Merylwyn's Wild Shape ability starts out unlocked and offers an additional 1.5 second bonus to attack speed cooldown. See, that's what they want. They want you making up for it with her abilities, right? And loyal friends, finally. The final one, the expensive one. Marilyn starts in the formation. She can be moved but not removed. Only champions with an affiliation may be used. What's an affiliation? It's that tag in the champion UI that says Oxventurers Guild, or Companions of the Hall, or Heroes of Erois. There are a number of affiliations in the game. You can find. I'll show you in the champ UI when we look at a champion. Once we hop into a run here, they have to have that tag. It can't say none, or else they can't be used. Oxventurers champions do 400% more damage. So if you've been playing long enough to collect some Oxventurers, you can rock them. You can rock them. Prudence DPS, sure. That's what they're looking for here. But otherwise, anyone with an affiliation can be used as your DPS. Again, this formation, as you can see, real spread out, real weird. Not really the greatest for newer players to maximize their usage. Veteran players can work this just fine, but in this one, looks kind of like a cat. Looks kind of like a cat. Not gonna lie, a cat or a dragon, depending on what you want to see here. I don't see wings, so I'm going with cat. This one's it's not horrible for a new player, but again, if you're trying to push deep and get a lot of favor, Nova's probably the better one. We're gonna hop into a Merylwyn free play and talk about each of the champions. Let's throw out, you know what? I'm going to throw out the newest. Can you go away? Charity Familiar. Amani the Songbird. Pick that up in the store. Proceeds go to the Lambert House. And if you're looking for a hey, I got my D&D shirt from a couple years ago. If you're looking for the newest versions of shirts like this to support the Trevor Project, not Trievor, not Trevor, our moderator, but the Trevor Project, you can get that from the link I dropped in chat. All right, where we got? We got Merylwyn coming in slot 2. We got Nova slot 11, and we got Solis in slot 12. This is how everything's broken down this year. Oh, did I? No, let's do that here. They gave us these nice 3 spread out. Let's do it like that. Yeah, that'll work. So let's do this. We'll do Novice first. So this is the champ UI I was referring to earlier. Here is the alignment. Notice this says chaotic good, lawful neutral. So Solis actually would work. This is the side that you want the neutral on for Merylwyn's a neutral party. The right side. By right, I don't mean correct. I mean literally the one on the right. Okay. You can be a true neutral, like we see Deacon and Merylwyn. They will work as well, but just keep that in mind. All right, Nova. Nova comes to us from, hey, it's an affiliation, folks. The Heroes of Erois. They're an Air Genasi warlock, at least in this game. Heroes of Erois, the Erois campaign is a homebrew campaign, so they had to convert these characters into 5e. Official 5e stuff. So here in Idle Champions, it's an Air Genasi. They're an Air Genasi warlock, chaotic good. Overwhelm of 20. This means they're a tank. As you can see right here, tanking support is their role. Folks, if that doesn't say tanking here, they shouldn't be on your front line taking damage. Just gonna say it. Just gonna say what I'm thinking. Dissect is their basic attack. Nova leaps out and slices through the nearest enemy with Tiangong. That's their sword. I should probably put Novice in a regular skin that everybody would recognize, right? That's probably helpful. Let's throw some levels on Nova. Their ultimate is activate Tiangong. Nova levitates. Oh, let me do that from out here. Nova levitates up in the. This one has more information, folks. If you're wondering if you want to know what an ultimate does, the information is better here on the ultimate bar than in the champ UI. Nova levitates up in the air as Tiangong floats in front of the formation, releasing 3 waves of blue energy that deal damage to all enemies. The damage is increased by 1% for every 20 monster hearts Nova is collected, stacking additively. That's right. Nova cuts the hearts out of her fallen enemies, because that's badass. Yeah, see, they're here on the ground. Look at them. Look at all the hearts on the ground. All right, but here's what the ultimate looks like. Sword comes up here, pulses out 3 times, hops back. It's real quick. Real quick. All right. Dun-dun-dun-dun. Curiosity is level 10. Everything is based around curiosity. This is the thing that lets you, cut stuff out. And we'll notice, because I leveled up, Dissect now has an additional sentence. If she kills a normal enemy, it will always drop a monster heart. So, Nova is intrinsically curious about the world around her. When monsters are killed, there's a chance she will collect a trophy from it. Real serial killer behavior, but hey, let's go with it. Trophies augment her abilities and reset every run. Bosses always drop monster brains, which provide big buffs. And I like big buffs, and I cannot lie. But only drop once per boss run. Per run. That means... that does not mean that... Because the bosses repeat every 50 areas. That does not mean you will only get brains in the first 50 areas. It counts per area. So you can't just farm a boss on one level and get multiple. You just get 1 per area. Normal monsters have a 10% chance to drop monster hearts. Guaranteed drop if killed by Nova, which can be farmed indefinitely and provides smaller buffs. So yeah, there's a farming mechanic you can use there. But Nova is what I call a ramping champion in Idle Champions, which means you want her in and leveled up to 10 as quickly as possible in a run, because she's going to collect those hearts and mines on the run, and you want as many as possible. You want as many as possible. The further you're pushing with Nova, the stronger she gets. So she is a deep run champion in that regard. Level 20, Discovery. So first off, we're collecting things, but it doesn't tell us what we do with them. Discovery. Nova increases the damage of the 5 champions in the formation with the highest intelligence score by an amount that changes. This effect is buffed by 0.1% for each monster heart she's collected, stacking additively, and then 10% for each monster brain she's collected, stacking multiplicatively. That's the good kind. That's why you want to get her in right away and have her in at every boss level if you can, because multiplicative stacking is the good one. So this is that ramping damage. This is that in-run stacks. These reset when you complete your run. This isn't permanent. So yeah. Protective Field. Nova increases the max health with all other champions by 25% of her base max health. This is a tanking feature. This is your survivability feature from tanks. If a tank doesn't have that, it was a mistake. Let them know. They will add it. Close Encounter. Nova increases the effect of Discovery by 100% for each enemy attacking her, and each point of enemy or boss in rage, stacking additively. So this is basically a ramping bonus. The more enemies like this that are attacking if Nova was in the front, the more damage, the more she buffs her party. So she's like, get him off me, get him off me, get him off me. That's what's going on there. So this is really nice. This is, it's great when tanks have this. Level 150, you get Slow. Nova attacks slow the movement of enemies she damages by 50% for 5 seconds. Remember, her attack is single target. So this is really about bosses. I'm just going to be clear. It doesn't help a whole lot if there's a bunch of enemies standing on you. Enemies that are slowed by this ability deal half damage to Nova. So a bit of a survivability feature when you're fighting against a boss. Specialization Choices. Oh, my ear bothering me today. Specialization Choices, folks. Mass Appeal or Journaling. There are a lot of champions nowadays. The Specialization Choice more alters how they're going to be used. Like it's a situational ability or it changes their functionality. Very rarely do we have specializations where it's like one size fits all. Like there's just one best choice. The 99% of the time, you're going to choose one thing. Well, Nova's is currently kind of one of those 99% of the time. You're probably going to choose one thing. And that one thing is Mass Appeal. Discovery now applies to the top 8 champions based on intelligence score. I will explain why when we get to the ability that makes this one the more powerful version. Journaling just doubles Discovery. Just doubles the effect of Discovery, so up by 100%. So we're going to choose Mass Appeal. Because on its own, it's like, well, I mean, if you're thinking, well, if Discovery's already hitting, because it's top 5 champions in terms of intelligence, if it's already hitting my DPS, why would I want to make it cover more? There's another ability that makes you want that. We'll get to it in a moment. Fail-safe. When Nova becomes overwhelmed, Tiangong creates a protective barrier around Nova, giving her 250 points of temp HP and stunning her until the shield is broken or she is no longer overwhelmed. Overwhelm is in reference to this. So if she has 20 or more champions attacking her, she becomes overwhelmed and takes more damage. That's when the shield triggers, folks. This can only trigger once per area. And the amount of temp HP granted is increased by a % for each monster brain she's collected. Remember, the brains are the boss ones. So it's going to be a small. Even with a lot of brains, honestly, it's a small shield. So it's just kind of like a, at that point you're probably getting just a few hits off, and then the shield's gone. So just know currently it's not a huge shield. Self shields are usually nice. It's just not a big thing here. Cosmic Resonance. Heroes of Erois, so her party members, which are listed here, are automatically buffed by Discovery and are not included in the highest calculations, or in the calculations for highest int score. This is one of those situations where if you're running a full Heroes of Erois group, you wouldn't go mass appeal. You would go Discovery, right? But that's usually the rarer case that you're trying to run a theme group. Jeez, wow, why did it do that? But this synergy ability is why you go mass appeal, folks. So once you can, once you're consistently leveling Nova to 450, you just always want mass appeal. Nova contributes to the Erois synergy pool as follows: 60% per champion buffed by Discovery, multiplicatively. Remember when I said earlier multiplicatively is the good way, like when that's per stack up front, when they're multiplying against each other, that's the one we want. So you want at least 8 champions. So that's 60% to the 8th power. So multiply against itself 8 times. That gives you a big contribution to the Erois synergy pool. And then Discovery is then buffed by 25% of that pool. So you're making Discovery stronger with more people that qualify for it. Now, again, a couple exceptions to the rule of picking mass appeal all the time. If your formation has a Heroes of Erois in it, you can go Discover. You can go just with journaling because they're already going to hit the max numbers because Discovery's already applying to everybody. Also, if everyone in your party is kind of tied for the highest intelligence, it's going to apply to everybody anyway. So, yeah. Good times. Go Erois synergy, folks. Go Erois synergy. And that's going to be all. That's going to be all for that. For Nova. Item-wise, para damage all champions items, a health item, which is what you want on tanks, and then Discovery. So it's all about Discovery. They're just buffing that by huge numbers. And then ultimate attack damage and ultimate cooldown reduction. Feats, we're looking at a lot of the same. Damage all champions. We're seeing some health feats. We do get some overwhelm feats. But then it's all about Discovery. You get a pair of Discovery feats. And then there's a close encounter one. And again, this is the one where you're getting buffed based off the number of enemies attacking her. So if you're doing deep runs, running like Mathematics and Explorer can be a good combination as long as she doesn't have problems surviving. If you're just going for straight up damage, those two work. Did I cover everything? Oh, achievements for Nova. Over here under the events tab, you'll see like, hey, there's Binwin, who was the year 1 champion. There's Korth, who was the year 2 champion. Again, those are time gates only now. And here's Nova. Nova's specific champion call out here is samples collected. Have Nova collect 5,000 monster hearts. You're just going to get that just by using Nova, folks. It'll just happen. You don't have to farm that. Just use Nova and it's going to happen. All right, next up, we're going to talk about Solis. Solis comes to us from the Rivals of Waterdeep. We do not have all of the rivals in game yet, but there you go. There's the ones that are in right now. Solis is a human paladin, lawful neutral, 15 overwhelm. You'll notice the Nova had a 20, but this can change for Solis. We'll talk about that. Solis's basic attacks over here are well, that can change too. Solis is a champion who I like to refer to the mechanic as stance revolution. Solis has these stances that are triggered by her ultimate. Her ultimate button isn't firing off some major ability. It's rotating her through these stances. So she can be a fairly active play type of champion because you might want to switch stances based off what's going on. So basic attack is sword and board, which means she leaps out and attacks the nearest enemy. However, she gets a bonus effect based off what stance she's in. Her stances are aggressive, wall, deflect, and last resort. So in the aggressive stance, she bashes the enemy, most likely with her shield, before she attacks them, and it stuns them for 2 seconds. This can actually, because she does the bash and then the attack, that can remove 2 chunks off hit and armor-based enemies. The wall stance, along with the attack, she takes 25% less damage from all attacks for 10 seconds. So she attacks, and then for 10 seconds, she's got a high defense. Now, her attack cooldown, you'll see, is around the 6 second. I think it's probably it's 6 seconds. So that means she can always have, in wall stance, she can always have this 25% damage reduction going on just constantly. As long as she's attacking, that can happen. In deflect stance, she damages all enemies in a small AoE if reflective shield is chosen, which is we'll get to that. And gain 1 charge of deflection for each enemy hit. Reflective shield is one of her specialization paths. We'll talk about that in a bit. And in last resort stance, she damages and knocks back all enemies in a small AoE. So you get a bit of a knockback, and it turns her base attack into an AoE. And again, the ultimate, you'll see, switch to wall stance. Like, this is just the stance shift. It's on a 5-second cooldown. So let's... Did I start out in the... Come on. What's going on? Hold on, folks. Let me get to a regular level. Let's shift through. Okay, so this is the default. So the sword, icon you see on her, it indicates you are in aggressive stance. This is her aggressive stance. This is her wall stance. So you see it looks like a bit of a castle or battlements of some kind. That's her wall stance. This is her deflect stance. So it looks like a shield. And this is last resort. It's the lightning bolt. Now this one can change its appearance for reasons which we'll talk about when we cover another of her abilities. Let's go in though. Divine Sense is the core of her kit. This is what causes her basic attack to have all of these different things with the stances. So increases the damage of champions in the 2 columns behind her by a percentage. So that's just straight up her buff. But then, based off what stance you're in, you get special effects. Aggressive champions... hold on. So you just click on her to change stances. I'm going to address this real quick. No, I was hotkeying the ultimate. Apologies. I was down here clicking. But I was using the hotkeys. Sorry for the confusion. Okay. Aggressive. Champions affected by Divine Sense have their base attack cooldowns reduced by a half a second. So when she's in that stance, anyone affected by Divine Sense will be attacking faster. When in wall, champions in the same column as Solis take 25% less damage from melee attacks. So this, especially in a multi-tank frontline, is going to have all the tanks taking less damage. In Deflect, champions affected by Divine Sense take 25% less damage from ranged and magical attacks. So when you're up against those bosses, or sometimes just ranged mobs that can attack back in the party and don't just attack the front line, so AoEs and stuff, she can reduce the damage in that, which can be super nice. And then in Last Resort stance, Solis's Overwhelm point is increased by 15, so you can take this up to 30. And Solis's Vow of Vengeance ability is increased by 200%. We'll talk about that ability in a bit. And then the base damage buff for Divine Sense gets increased by 100% for each other Rivals of Waterdeep champion in the formation. So this is a bit of her synergy with her affiliation. So she's going to buff more based off how many rivals are in Last Resort. All right. Now, Solis has a lot of special effects that can happen depending on stances. So this you kind of have to remember what stance she's in and where you're switching, and then the effects trigger based off the different ones. So, Shield of Psychomancy. While in aggressive stance, Solis will toss her shield in an arc targeted at the farthest enemy every fourth attack. It deals damage and stuns all enemies hit for 2 seconds, and the effect of Divine Sense is increased by 1% for each enemy hit, stacking additively. So this is a ramping damage bonus based off how many enemies she's hitting with this kind of shield toss. Think Captain America. Until she attacks with Shield of Psychomancy again or changes stances. So it can be a continuous buff, but the amount it's buffing will change based off how many things she's hitting. We can watch this happen. There, it just happened. Hey, right as I switched. So her shield flies out, spins around the formation. Let's try to get it on screen one more time before we move on. That should be 3 attacks. This one should be the 4th. Throw it. There it goes. Yay. All right. That's what it looks like. Yeah, Captain Waterdeep. I don't know if Cypher of Tears okay with that, but I sure am. Vow of Vengeance. While not in aggressive stance, so in any of the other stances, Solis increases the effect of Divine Sense by 1% for each enemy attacking her, stacking additively. So this is the other version of the ramping one. So when you're in aggressive mode, you're actively building those numbers up. It can work even when enemies aren't reaching your formation because you're throwing the shield out and hitting them. But in any other stance, it's all about the normal tank stuff, where the more champions are hitting them, the more dangerous it gets. Thunderous Smite. Remember earlier when I said that her Last Resort stance had an icon, that lightning bolt, and it would change? This is why. When switching from Last Resort to aggressive, so rotating fully through and back to the start, Solis channels the divine power of Tyr and attacks a random enemy with her sword, dealing Bud-based AoE damage and Bud-based chaining lightning damage from the enemy struck to 5 nearby enemies. This effect can only trigger every 180 seconds. Because her ultimate button effectively isn't an ultimate, they built the ultimate into her kit based off your stance changing. And they gave it a 180 second cooldown. But there is no, we'll talk about that, there is no item for cooldown reduction. However, this has a feat you can slot if you just want that to happen more often. So just so you know, this is effectively, because it's Bud-based AoE damage, this is effectively an ultimate attack, but it's not linked directly to hitting her ultimate button. And the icon changes. So let me rotate through here. 5 seconds. Change again. And it should be back off of cooldown by now from earlier. There it is. So you'll see that lightning bolt is energized. It is ready to go. When we pull into this new area, I always turn that off on boss areas. I forget, it always moves forward anyway. When we go in here, if I hit this, it's going to basically trigger that arc like that. Boom. And then she does that thing, and then it hits, and everything explodes. But we didn't have a big build-up, so there wasn't a whole lot to see. But then, if I rotate back through again right now, we'll note that it's just back to its kind of grayed out version of the icon because it has to wait 180 seconds to see just the regular lightning bolt to do it again. I'm going in depth explaining this because, if my memory serves, this is her achievement. Yes, ready for anything. Destroy 1,000 enemies with Thunderous Smite by switching from last resort to aggressive stance. Obviously, it's not 1,000 enemies at once. That's not possible. But basically, what they want you to do is cycle through those stances while using Solis. Somewhere where only Bud-based damage is killing stuff. It's one of those just use Solis and eventually you'll get it types of things. If you want to farm it, you have to actively find an area where your DPS isn't killing anything. Like maybe you take your DPS out and it's just all buffers, but your but ultimates will kill things, and then you just park a familiar on this and then go do something else for a while. Play a different game. But just, let that run in the background. And eventually you'll get it. Remember, you don't have to get achievements during the event. There's only one achievement that you have to get during the event. We'll talk about it in a moment. Specialization. So Solis has two different times where you'll select specializations. In the first set, you have Relentless Avenger, Reflective Shield, and Mithril Skin. What happens is you will pick one of these, and then when the specialization comes up again, the other two that you didn't pick will still be available again, and they'll add a new one. So you'll end up picking from ultimately 2 out of 4 total specializations. Relentless Avenger, this is specializing her real deeply into one type of stance. When in wall stance, Solis can't be stunned. That could be neat. Any enemy that attempts to stun her is instead stunned themselves for 4 seconds. So this is specifically just Solis. Solis would not be able to be stunned. Reflective Shield. While in deflect stance, Solis can deflect projectiles back at the enemies that shot or cast them, because this game counts magic attacks as projectiles. Dealing 6 seconds of Bud-based damage. Yes, please. Right? So if you're dealing with lots of ranged attackers or a ranged enemy that's like a boss that's sitting in the background dropping magical attacks on your party, here you go. Valindra Shadow Mantle, I'm looking at you. This could be useful. Mithril Skin is more of a generic, it's for last resort, but it's more of a last resort as if, that's the one that pumps up your overwhelm to 30 and then gives you a bunch of bonuses. This one makes it so that you take reduced damage while in that stance as well. So not only is your overwhelm going up, you're taking less damage as your health drops lower and lower. So I'm just going to choose that one for now. And then Tyr's Eyes is the other specialization. So Tyr's Eyes, as you see, the others showed up that we didn't choose. This increases the range of Divine Sense to affect the 3 columns behind Solis rather than just 2. So if your formation layout has you putting your DPS, 3 columns behind Solis, you would choose this. Or if you are trying to use Divine Sense to protect, like remember we were talking about the reflective in deflect stance, she reduces the damage while you're in deflect stance of everybody that's hit by Divine Sense. Tyr's Eyes, right? That's the way you want to go. That's the way you want to go. But again, it's really really about figuring out how you want Solis to work in your run. And that's how you choose your specialization. Protect the party, and this increases the health of all champions by 25% of Solis's max health. Again, that's a health share tanking fee feature I talked about. This is increased by 5% for each other Rivals of Waterdeep champion in the formation, applied additively. That's fantastic. Other champs don't get this. They don't get to take it above 25%. That's usually the cap. So right now there's 3 other Rivals of Waterdeep. That means you could share 40% of Solis's health with your party. That's a big deal, folks. That's a big deal. That's everything for her. Item-wise, a pair of damage all champions items. Again, the health item you want for tanks. Then we go straight into Divine Sense. Again, that's kind of the core of her kit. So yeah, they want to buff that. But remember, her ultimate isn't normal. So there's no ultimate attack damage item. And there's no ultimate cooldown item. So instead, we get a Shield of Psychomancy item and a Vow of Vengeance item. Remember, Shield of Psychomancy is the effect when you're in aggressive stance that ramps up the damage, and Vow of Vengeance is the one that in all the other specs ramps up the damage. So basically, she has 6 functional items that help her do stuff. Buff her damage bonuses for the party, or increase her health, which is fantastic. Feat-wise, we've got damage all champions. Then we get real crunchy. We can reduce the cooldown of Thunderous Smite. We can buff Divine Sense. Remember, Thunderous Smite is basically like that ultimate that's just built into her kit. We get multiple Divine Senses. Guess what? Divine Sense is a big deal. You can buff Shield of Psychomancy. You can buff Vow of Vengeance. You can buff Relentless Avenger. That's the stun thing. Yeah, so this is the stun spec. That's right. I always go Relentless Avenger. This is the stuns. This is she can't be stunned. It's not buffing that. What it's buffing is the duration that it stuns the enemy. Normally it's 4 seconds. This would take it to 6 seconds. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know how important that is, but hey, that's a thing that you can choose as a spec. She also has one stat feat. And it's Wisdom. Her Wisdom starts out at 13. This takes it to 14. This is important. I'm going to show this interaction because currently this is a kind of a big deal. Folks, welcome Narak to the formation, everybody. Narak, put your hands together. I told you this was going to be a weird show today, folks. Narak has an ability called Githzerai Focus. Githzerai Focus increases the potency of the formation abilities of adjacent champions with a Wisdom score of 14 or higher. It does it by 112.5. Well, at the level I have him at, it's 112.5%. So with a Wisdom 14, adding that Wisdom feat, this makes Solis qualify for Githzerai Focus. Now remember, what's that going to change, folks? Well, remember this whole thing over here with Divine Sense. Where champions in the same column as Solis take 25% less damage from melee attacks, and champions affected by Divine Sense and in Deflect, they take 25% less damage from ranged and magical attacks. Thank you very much. High fives. He comes over, he high fives Solis, and now taking 50% less damage. 50% less damage. Folks, Narak can as you keep upgrading Narak, like I'm real low level here. I can't max him out. But when he's maxed, he makes Solis take over 100% less damage and everyone in her column from melee attacks, which means she just doesn't. Her and everyone in her column just doesn't take any damage. And if you're in Deflect stance, it means anyone affected by Divine Sense is taking no damage from ranged or magical attacks. So situationally, Solis and Narak make it so that 0 damage happens when Narak is maxed out. Again, I would have to level up Narak a lot higher because that's the only way to up his Githzerai Focus. But that's that feat, that Wisdom feat, potentially a big deal. Situationally, but that's what you want feats to be. You want feats to be situational, and you want them to be super effective, and that one can be. So that's Solis, everybody. Let's move on to Merylwen right now. Merylwen is a Wood Elf Druid, Circle of the Moon, neutral alignment, support Goldfind champion from the Oxventurers Guild. Who's currently distracting us with their cuteness. Look at the kitty cat on the screen, folks. This is triggered to one of Merylwen's abilities. We'll talk about it in a moment. It makes her just not attack, and it does other things. So yeah, Meryl right meow. We got there, folks. We got there, folks. Meryl when? Meryl right meow. A neutral party. Merylwyn increases the damage of all neutral, again on the good and evil axis, champions in the formation by a percent. This is the straight up buff. This is the straight up buff that you're looking for. That means Merylwyn wants neutral, again on the good evil axis, DPS. There is a way that doesn't matter if you're running another of her companions from the Ox Venturers Guild. Corazon makes everyone in one spec makes everyone adjacent to Corazon neutral on the good evil axis. So there's a way you can manipulate this with another Ox Venturer. Otherwise, you want a neutral DPS. Liquidity. Merylwyn increases gold fine by 100% for each Ox Venturers Guild champion in the formation, stacking multiplicatively. Counts herself, so you're getting at least one stack. But this is a big deal. If you're running a full Ox Venturers group, you're going to be raking in a lot of extra gold. This also is a nice thing for Azaka farming specifically. Merylwyn is a fantastic champion for Azaka farming, and we'll talk about that when we get to the specializations. Not just because of this, although this is enough. It gets better with specs. Wild Shape. At the start of each non-boss area, Merylwyn takes on the form of a Scottish Wildcat. That's what we're seeing over here. She no longer makes normal attacks, but the attack speed cooldown of every adjacent champion is reduced by a half a second. So she speeds up everyone around her when she's in this form. If there are ever 15 or more enemies on the screen, Merylwyn transforms back into her normal form and starts attacking until the party switches areas. Remember, non-boss areas. You'll see she's in Merylwyn form right now because we're in a boss area. Her attack's poison spray. She attacks a random enemy with a magical spray of poison. So yes, she has a bow and arrows. No, she does not use them. This is not, I want to be clear, this is not a CNE decision. Nellie Rose, the person who plays Merylwyn, uses the magic as the druid instead of the bow and the arrows. So that's how they're brought into the game. So that's what the Wild Shape does. Punishing puns. While in her elf form, Merylwyn boosts a neutral party by 1% for each enemy on the screen, stacking additively. So this is... Normally we see abilities like this on tanks. Remember how our tanks had ramping bonuses for stuff attacking? Well, this just boosts, not even for things attacking the party, just if they're on the screen at all. This is fantastic. This is a fantastic ability. All right, specialization choice. Make sure you're okay. Everything's fine. Stink Like Skunk treasures her friends, or a Meowwyn. Stink Like Skunk is really straightforward. Merylwyn's normal attack makes hit enemies stink like skunk, taking 2.5 seconds of bud damage every second for 5 seconds. So it is a way that she can hit someone and actually kill things as long as you're in a range where bud is where ultimate damage effectively is killing things. So bud based damage is killing stuff. That's pretty nice. And usually kind of the straight up, like I would say that's your kind of straight up go-to, just get a little extra damage. One of the things that this is nice for is it means that when you're attacking armored things, if 2.5 seconds of bud will remove an armor chunk, then she can remove armor like you're along with your primary DPS, which means you can chunk through things faster. Treasures her friends. This is the specialization that you use for Azaka farming, folks. Merylwyn gains an encouragement stack each second that an enemy is not defeated, capping at 300 stacks. So 5 minutes, folks. 5 minutes, and she's at full power. For each encouragement stack, the gold find of liquidity is increased by 100%, stacking additively. When the enemy is defeated or the party changes areas, the stacks are set to 0. In Azaka farming, you specifically create a situation on a boss level where you kill all but one enemy and then you leave it. So this is perfect. I mean, this design is all around Azaka farming. Because you're going to add... oh my god, I'm doing math on stream. 30,000%. I think that's max stacks, 300 and 100% additively. 30,000%. of a bonus, so 3E04 gold find bonus. Just base. Just base. And it goes up from there with other Ox Ventures people. So, fantastic. Fantastic gold find boost. Especially when some people are just throwing a cheesy little couple hundred % gold find in your party. No. Marilyn shows up. Marilyn shows up and helps you out. Well, she will be Meowlin. She'll be in the cat form when doing that. But Meowlin spec, Marilyn's Wild Shape attack speed cooldown reduction is increased by 1 second, so to 1.5 seconds, and persists when she's in her elf form. So you could get faster attack speed all the time. What is this form? What would this spec be good for? This is great if you're using lots of on-hit debuffers. So like Freely and Krull and Orkira. Making them attack faster, like putting them adjacent to her and allowing them to attack faster, means they're stacking those buffs faster, spreading those buffs faster, so you're doing damage, better damage. So this could potentially be better than this. Again, this is situational, whether you're going to stink like skunk or Meowlin, honestly. And then Treasure Friends, full on Azaka farm. I'm just going to go with that one. I'm not going to Azaka farm on stream, but we'll do that one. Cause I wanna. Ultimate. Oh yeah, we unlocked the ultimate after that, and that's it. Okay, let's talk about the ultimate. Merylwyn's Meat Grinder. Stone spikes come out of the ground with a 30-second duration. Enemies take massive damage over time while in the area. So let's we're gonna do this. But there we go. Look at it. Look at it just kill everything. This is why it's the meat grinder, folks. Anything that goes in dies. Anything that goes in just dies. Well, at this level. 30 seconds. 30 seconds of death. Look at that, folks. That was great. That was great. All right. That's the ultimate. That's Merylwyn's Meat Grinder. It's pretty great. It actually has special effects. It doesn't tell you this. This is something that they need to change. Here, it doesn't tell you what else happens when you trigger Merylwyn's Meat Grinder. I have this in my guide on the subreddit, though. Secondary effects are triggered based on if the other Ox Ventures guild members are part of the formation. So if you have any of her affiliate friends with her, you're going to get a bonus. With Corazon, enemies affected by grease in the spike area take 200% damage from all sources. So if you're to the point where the meat grinder itself isn't killing things, you stack the meat grinder with some grease, and everything blows up because everything takes more damage. If you've got Prudence in the formation, triggering the ultimate sets Prudence's Glee stacks to max. Her Glee stacks are damage bonuses. So again, it's basically like a kill everything button. And for Rust, the gold find, when you have Rust on the Harbor, gold find is increased by 1,000% for 30 seconds. So again, this is that's also great for Azaka farming. But yeah, so you get a nice spike in gold find. I'm being told it's over here. Oh, they put it over here. That's real weird. It needs to be over here, folks. Sure. Okay, they have it over here in the formations buff tabs. If you can't figure out what an ability is doing, checking outgoing effects is a good idea. It's not always there. It needs to be over here. There's no reason. I have passed this feedback along, but there's no reason it just doesn't tell you this right here. And just tell me what the ultimate does and what effects it has right here. All right, item-wise, folks, we get a Damage All Champions item, but then we go straight into buffing abilities. Neutral Party item. Liquidity. That's the gold find. That's the good one right here. Punishing Puns. That's the ramping damage based off the number of enemies on the screen. It's just 3 fantastic items right here. Then we get ultimate attack damage, which for the meat grinder we kind of want, and then cooldown reduction so we can grind more often. Feat-wise, damage all champions. And we get a bonus one down here. But then we get perfect form. This is going to reduce or provide another attack speed bonus to adjacent champions. Another half a second. So that can take the base version up to 1 second. And the improved version up to 2 seconds. There's a neutral party items. And there's a liquidity feat. So again, all in on Gold Find. On Gold Find. So when you want to use her for Gold Find, she's really going to show up for Gold Find. What would I think I'm going to want a neutral party. And I want this one. For just pushing. Sure. Yeah. Those are the bigger numbers for the damage. We'll do that. Let's throw something over there. And her. Hop over and look at her achievement. Her specific functional achievement. Achievements! All about those puns. Gotta love it. Get Merowyn to boost a neutral party by 30 stacks with punishing puns. So yeah, that means we need 30 enemies on the screen at once. That's it. That's all you gotta do, folks. It's real easy. Real easy. I think we're good. Yeah, good on time, too. All right, we're going to take a short musical break. Where I'm going to drink some water. We'll listen to some music. I can't remember what music I queued up today, but it's from Bardic Inspiration, folks. Enjoy. I'll be right back, and we'll do our Q&A.
At the dawn of
Time to get cracking on this Q&A. Of course. I mean, come on. We can't have the release of Merylwyn and I don't just do lots of puns during the show, right? All right, I'm going to hit up the questions that Trevor has grabbed and pulled over here from chat. I'm gonna look through. I'm gonna cherry pick out the ones that are on today's topic. Then I will go back and answer all the rest. I go back. I'll do all the rest after that. All right. Let's see. Dance Lover, if you can't full epic all of the events champions, who should you concentrate on with this Dragondown? And what are the important slots for each of the 3 champions? This is multi-layered. Generally speaking, I always recommend on just, I think, distributing your free plays amongst all the champions equally to try to get them equal amounts of gear is a great idea. If you want to like specifically go all in on certain champions, Nova is, again, I said Nova is fantastic. When you can do deep pushes. So if you're at the part of the game where you can push real deep, Nova's ramping bonuses are going to do a lot of work for you. Merylwyn is arriving to the game as brand new. Their buffs are okay, but that gold find though. So Merylwyn's going to come in and be super big in Azaka farming. So if you're in the Azaka farming stage of your Idle Champion's career, Merylwyn could be a big deal for you, and maybe bigger for you than Nova, because maybe you've already got like Avrin over here, so you're like, right? That could be a thing. And Solis is, again, a very adjustable champion. Like with her stances, you can switch through, and with her specialization choices, she can fit into a lot of different niches and help you in a lot of different kinds of variants. So I feel like they're all good champions. Nova has probably the best overall numbers for buffs. Merylwyn being the best for gold finds. So if we look at Nova, if you were to go all in Nova, what you're looking at item wise is you're focusing on the discovery item slot 4 and the health item in slot 3. Discovery obviously getting you the buffing power, and the health keeping you the survivability for when you're pushing deep. These 2 are the primarily important items to try to get epics on, right? So if you were to pop these 2 epics and everything else was blue, you're like, okay, I'm going to go focus on a different champion now, because that's, you got the good ones, you got the goods. With Solis, it's a little. There's a lot more going on here, right? So Solis has a health item, which is great for survivability. She's also got Divine Sense. I mean, that's the core of her kit, so that's the big one. But then these 2 are good too. But if you wanted to focus on 2, the health and the Divine Sense. So again, slot 3 and slot 4. For Merylwyn, I mean, honestly, look, liquidity. Because that's going to be her big. I mean, I personally, I'm using her in my gold find formations from now on, because this is huge. Her gold find bonuses are huge. So getting an epic on liquidity. Now, if you're going to use her for pushing, you also might want epics on these 2, on a neutral party and punishing puns. Right? Yeah. So there's your priorities. Figure out. I mean, I think they're all good. I use both Nova and Solis in-game variants, so they can both stand up and do work. Why does it keep doing that to me? All right. Oh. What else is on topic? Sheba Kevin, if I have 3 Aroas teammates, so that a total of 8 are covered by Nova's discovery, is it better to choose the right spec then, or choose the left spec to get all 10 champs covered? Well, it would be all 9 champs, because it's not counting Nova. I don't think. I'd have to double check. But the point being, you still kind of want. You would still want the 9. You would still want more champ. If you aren't already covering everyone with discovery, it's still better to add like 1 more. Because again, it's multiplying that. Well, generally speaking, the six, maybe you might want two more. You might want two more. Do the math. 60% bonus, but then there's stuff going on. So yeah. So it might be that, hey, you're good with 8 and you don't need 10, or I mean, you're good with 7, you don't need 9. Like figure out the math. You can use a potion of specialization and swap between and see which numbers come out better. But again, it's usually that you're just going to want to do mass appeal, because most of the time you're not necessarily covering that many people. But yeah, if you're running any kind of heavy Erois themed composition, that creates a better situation for you. J. McUnyielding, how viable do you think Meryl's third variant is for favor farming, considering the Rust Gold Draft buff on her ultimate? Not very. Not very. Let me double check, but I don't think so. Hold on. Generally speaking, you don't want to push deep in variants, is the problem. I mean, I guess this one isn't super restricted. Well, no, only a champions with an affiliation may be used. So, I mean, if your deep pushing formation has an affiliate or all affiliated, sure. But the problem is there may be some that don't have affiliations that you would normally be using to push that far. And you'd want a Azaka farm too. Azaka doesn't have an affiliation. So yeah, you wouldn't use that for favor farming. Is that formation a cat outline? It could be, if that's what you want it to be. Some people see a dragon, but I don't see wings on it. So I go with cat. Sultaneous, it doesn't look like there are any Merylwyn achievements. Oh, there are. Trevor says he's heard there's some bug for some people with achievements, but they're not sure what it is. Yeah, no, I mean, first off, this one, I think, Dragondown is hers. That's her related one. I forgot to talk about that. We'll talk about that. But then, yeah, they're down here. So maybe on some platforms there's bugs with that. I don't know. I remember earlier when I said, hey, you can do achievements at any time, except for one type of achievement. It's these numbered ones. These numbered ones, the 175 through 275, can only be done in the event. The good news, though, is these aren't related to champions. They arrive with champions, but they don't belong to champions. Okay? There's no reference to a champion in here. There are thematic references and like joking references in the titles, but these aren't tied to any champions. So even when I started this event, before I did anything, I already had this 225 one because I'd already gone that far in these events before, because it isn't related to the champion. Only these ones that have names down here that say something about Merylwyn, like complete all 3 variants of Merylwyn's Let Sleeping Dragons Lie, or obtain a piece of gear for each of Merylwyn's equipment slots, recruit Merylwyn, get Merylwyn to boost, right? These can all be done at any time. They don't have to be done in the event at all. The variant ones can be done in time gates, but it's easier to do them in events. But these numbered ones have to be done during an event. Just so you know. Granrook, if you weren't using Nova at the beginning of your run, can you go back to an early boss and collect a brain? I don't believe so. I think once you've completed a boss, it's not going to drop. They don't drop the boss bag if you beat them again. That's the problem, and the brain is in the boss bag, so no. Shouldn't. Yeah, they don't want you micromanaging things like that, so it's just no. Get them in as early as possible. Silly Simon, which free play champ variant will use this event for deep favor pushing? Novice. Novice formation has the most adjacencies, so is real good for deep pushes. McNeil DJ, I think this is in regards to Merowyn's ultimate. Is Rust's increase additive or multiplicative? It's a multiplicative bonus. It's a multiplicative bonus. It should be a multiplicative bonus. Hold on. Let me go look at it again. Yeah, because it's just straight up gold find. It's just straight up gold find is increased. So yeah, you should get a nice big chunk of gold find increase while Meat Grinder's active. But hold on, we can check this out. Let me throw Rust in. Let me throw Rust in on the Harbor Inn. He's unfortunately in slot 11 with Nova. We have varying amounts of gold find because of how Merowyn works right now. But we should be able to see when I hit the ultimate. We should be able to see. Let me just get I want to wait and get a Rust gold piece so that we're locked in on bonuses. Come on, Rust. Grab that gold piece. Grab that gold piece. You can do it. He just doesn't want to. Doesn't want to find the gold piece. All right. Well, we'll do it without it. Okay. We're in the E49 range. If it is 3, it should go up quite a bit. Well, E50. Feels like additive? I don't know, folks. Ask some math people. I can't do the math stuff. What does Meat Grinder have to do with gold find? Oh, it's when Merowyn's Meat Grinder is active and you have Rust in the party, gold find is increased by 1,000%. Gold find is increased by 1,000%. Felt kind of additive, if I'm being honest. That's a good question for the devs. Just to make sure. It should be multiplicative because it should just be in another multiplier in the chain. But I'm expecting it to look higher than that. Still was nice. I mean, still worth it. Tazemi, I think this is in relation to Nova. How deep is deep, so to speak? We talking 1,000 or slightly below? If you want to compete with Avrin, you've got to get, probably over 1,000, 900 over 1,000, depending on what your gear is. As you're able to push further and further and further in this game, Nova potentially can outpace Avrin in terms of a buffer. But if you've got good gear on Avrin, you need to be able to go further. So it's really related to gear. But again, it's just the deeper you push, the better Nova gets. Period. Yeah. Can Merowyn be combined with Rust boosts Rust buff power enough to justify them over, say, 2 average buffers? Or other options in Rust? I don't understand what's going on here. What am I missing about this question? I mean, the synergy with other Ox Venturers is really, specifically around Rust, is gold find. So I'm trying to see. There's nothing else there. So Rust specifically wouldn't be making Merowyn more power in terms of buffing, just in terms of your party gaining more gold. Let me just double check, because Rust just gets his gold. He gets his 1 gold piece back more often if he's got Ox Venturers. But that's it? Yeah, that's the only synergy he has. Regarding my question, Merylwyn buffs Gold Find. Right. Which is the basis of Rust buff. Right. But I don't understand. Oh, you're just talking about average. Okay. Because you're using the term buffers, we need to. I feel like we need to just use different terms. She increases Gold Find, and she buffs parties. Like, I think of buffs as power and not Gold Find. So if you are Azaka farming, and you have Rust and Merylwyn, you want to combine those. You want to combine those over, say, like Regis would normally be if you were using slot 2 Gold Find. Regis, way better than Regis, hugely better than Regis, and then potentially better than, like, say, Brunor if you throw Rust in. So yeah, I think you would want those two together if you have them. Does Narak buff Merylwyn's ult buff? Ooh, good question. Good question. Nope. Nope. Yeah, no. No, it's not going to affect... Yeah, I'm like double checking. She should be buffing. Other things should be getting going way up. Yeah, it buffs Wild Shape, though, the attack speed reduction. Doesn't buff the Gold Find, because that's not a formation ability. Yeah, but it doesn't affect Meat Grinder, it looks like. Because the Meat Grinder isn't necessarily a formation ability. Yeah. But does look like it buffs some other things. Alright, I'm going to go back and hit all the rest of the questions. Oh, hey, we died on the dragon. The dragon, folks, the dragon's real rough. If you're dying on the dragon lately, I understand. Dragon's real rough. This event has a very difficult boss. And you're just going to have to get more favor to beat them if you're having problems. Or build a better formation, one or the other. Hitting up the regular questions. Chaos Eye. Should I spend a potion of polish on Nordum's item that affects Modron Core XP, or is the math not really worth it? I did, but you know. Would it be better off putting on a more combat-based ability than someone else, or rely on the more slow-paced power growth of the cores? I personally, it really depends on the status of your speed champions. There are some people who didn't even really bother with Nordum, like threw him into a speed formation with like Briv and everybody, and then just absolutely powered up their core to level 15 in less than a day, because their speed stuff is so fast that they were going to get there anyway, right? But that's not really who Nordum's for. Nordum is for newer players who don't have that kind of wild speed stuff, in-game speed stuff. So even for me, I mean, I have decent speed, but I threw Nordum in and took like a week and wasn't in a rush, but leveled up my core to max within a week by putting a shiny on that item, because why not? I had them available and given them a lot of item levels. But here's the thing. If you don't have a lot of item levels on an item, a potion of polish is kind of a waste. Because the potion of polish increases the power of that item by 50%. But if you have low item levels, and item levels boost the power of the item, so you're effectively getting more item levels out of a potion of polish. So at lower item level numbers, it's just better to throw blacksmithing contracts on. But if after you've thrown a lot of blacksmithing contracts onto that champion, a potion of polish comes in big. So it's really kind of about how many item levels are you willing to invest in Nordum. Some people are like, well, and then keep in mind that once you've leveled up all your cores, once you've maxed out all the cores that you currently have, it's not doing anything. But again, that's kind of what Nordum is for. Nordum is the niche of level up your Modron cores faster. And they've talked about releasing more Nodron cores, like Nodron cores more regularly than they have in the past. So could come in real handy. You gotta kind of make your own decision there. Sotho Ambush. How does the game calculate the difficulty level of an adventure? Only the earned favor, or what champions are available? It's 100% favor based. These ratings, these difficulty ratings, they start off challenging or deadly or whatever, and then they get all the way to easy. It's literally just based on your favor. It's very much a you must be this tall to ride this ride type of thing. Just because you're that tall doesn't mean you're going to enjoy it, right? And sometimes if you're shorter than that, you'd love it, but it is what it is. What you have to do on top of this is just a very easy rating. What you have to look at is it's telling you that with that amount of favor, you should be able to complete this area level really easily. But what it doesn't take into account is the restrictions. So restrictions can change the difficulty by a ton, especially when you're losing champions, because there's so much power in each champion. So you have to combine that difficulty rating. Again, I don't think you should do variants unless they show as easy. So have enough favor in an event or a campaign to make them show as easy. And then you have to look at the restrictions and decide, can I do that restriction or not? Let's get Amani back out here. Do characteristics like wisdom do anything in the game? Yeah, I think we just talked about that. Basically, they more often than not they're gonna allow you to access buffs from some champions, like with Narak. His is based off having 14 wisdom. There are variants where you're restricted out based off your stat scores, like you see a lot in this event. There are also cases where you will fight against bosses that have special abilities that function more like D&D. You'll make ability checks, you'll make saving throws, and your stats will affect whether you make that save or not. I had all the variants showing green, and yet Merowyn's unlock was still yellow. It sounds like it's just coded to be yellow, because the unlock adventure is just a basic adventure. It's not a variant, so it's probably just hard coded to be yellow because it is. It's the variants that we're talking about, not adventures that are everything should be based off favor, but sometimes they hard code things. Like if you go to the Wild Beyond the Witchlight campaign, if you are able to get there, everything, the Wild Beyond the Witchlight is about the Witchlight Carnival. Every variant there has a difficulty rating. Everything there has a difficulty rating of fair, as a pun, because fair is also another name for a carnival. The more you know. Thunderbob, not applicable to the current stream. We're in the Q&A portion, so it's all good. How do you unlock access to the icons in the bottom left of your screen? The mountain. Oh, over here. You're talking about the Trials of Mount Tiamat. To access Trials of Mount Tiamat in your game, it is end-game content currently. To access it, you need to go to Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus and play all through the storyline adventures, all the way over to here to Elturel's Last Stand, and complete Elturel's Last Stand. So you have to beat just the adventure storyline of Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus. Then you will access, it's going to unlock two things. One, you're going to get access to a new patron. Two, you're going to access the Trials of Mount Tiamat. Trials of Mount Tiamat, this is what they look like. Oh, I've got to do my trial run. Oh, no, I did it. I did it on stream yesterday. Yay. Oh, no, I got a new one. Wait, shouldn't I have had a different restriction? Oh, it bumped that up to 14. That's sneaky. Anyway, Trials of Mount Tiamat is in-game content. It's group-based content. Asynchronous group base, you just do your runs, but everybody else contributes too. I don't have to do my run. We've almost killed her. And then you also get access to the Forge, where you can upgrade items to get legendary effects. So along with Paragon of Kir Sabal, I also have a legendary effect that increases the damage of all champions by a lot, because I leveled it up to 10. All of that stuff is accessible through Trials of Mount Tiamat. I know, new day, new restrictions, but it did that sneaky thing where it just raised the stat level of the restriction, and I never see that one coming. Jamek Unyielding, it's been a while. What do you think of the recent Jaheira buffs? I mean, I thought she was a pretty good buffer originally, and I think that her buffs just make her better. I think she can probably be a lot more competitive now. End game. I don't think that was like a small buff. I don't think she's meta, but I think in those situations where you're going to use Jaheira, she's going to really show up. Gaarawarr's Guide to Emperor, Gaarawarr's Guide to Puns win. I like puns, but I don't know that there's a guide for them. I don't know that I would make a guide for puns. Puns are more of a free-form thing. I mean, I think it would be like one sentence, and it would be like, use them whenever possible. That's it. Pork Belly, I need one more slot 10 for Split the Party 3. I have Tyrell, Okoria, and Havilar. Ooh. Tyrell, Okoria, and Havilar. I would go either Yorvin or Barrowin. Yeah, like the Murder Bunny. Barrowin got some buffs recently, and I think that's pretty. She's in a much better place, which is good. I want my dwarf strong. I want my dwarf strong. Is it Chris? What DPS would work best with a full Heroes of the Plains formation? I see a lot of people using Birdsong. Let's see. So we'd have our Kira there. Yeah, we wouldn't do. I mean, you could try Jaheira. That's slot 4. I feel like you're giving up a Baloth to get a Jaheira. But I mean, Jaheira's a ramping champion as well. So you really want to be doing a deep push. Like, you'd want to be going really far. We don't get anybody there. Yeah, I mean, Beal and Grim are okay. I don't know. I mean, they're okay as a DPS. But yeah, most of the time I hear people using Birdsong. You could try Yorvin. It's definitely not Rosie, though. It's definitely not Rosie. So yeah, maybe Jaheira or Birdsong or Yorvin. I would probably try those 3. Someone said Delina. How dare you? I mean, honestly, Delin is okay, but... And with the swingy nature of Freely, I don't think you want to add more RNG in with Delina. Ryan the Wise, what was the episode where you reset Ashara? Oh, it was GG2E, so it was the Friday show a couple weeks ago when that came out, when the Dismantle feature came out. Did you move the legendaries to other heroes? Hell no. I love Ashara. Ashara is still a great DPS. In fact, I put all my item levels back on Ashara. The only reason I reset her was to naturally shiny her out again with silver chests and basically get 6 free potions of polish. Plus, one of these golden epics I had been on slot 1, and so I moved them both to the strong abilities, so Bond and Paragon. These are the best places to have goldens. Or shinies, basically. The highest guild you can get on these two. So yeah, I made her every bit as powerful as she was before. I put the legendaries back on, I put the goldens in a more optimized place, and I ended up with 6 free potions of polish. Win. But yeah, for me, Ashara is every bit as strong as she was before. The restriction of making her have 4 champions for each bond didn't change anything for me, and it actually made it easier. The half and half spec makes things so much easier. You've got some really solid kind of meta pairs to work, because basically it let me leave Briv in. I used to pull Briv out. It let me leave Briv in, and Averin was already in. So there's 2 half-bloods, and then I was already using 2 halflings in the form of like Penelope and oh no, it wasn't Regis. Sometimes somebody else though. Somebody else that I was using for halflings. Oh, Freely and Penelope. That's where I was going with that. So I was already doing halfling specs for that, like the halfling one before, the short folk with halflings. So that I just switched over to half and half, and yeah, that was kind of a win. So my pushing power with Shara did not change in that regard. Can we leveled up a little bit. Can we do this now? We got 2. Oh, that's stun. This boss also has stuns, folks. That's the eyes, when the big googly eyes. Stuns are rough. Xavier Kiath, been playing a year and still have no shinies in a shard. Does that seem super slow to you? Not really. It depends on what you've been prioritizing. If you're not really doing heavy gem farming, then shinies just are going to be a lot slower for you. If you are doing heavy gem farming and thus buying lots and lots of chests with those gems, you get shinies faster. Like, I know somebody posted on the subreddit the other day what I thought was an amazing accomplishment. 8 months in the game and they're full shiny on their core and evergreen, which means they did a lot of gem farming. But everybody plays the game at a different speed. Everyone has different amounts of time to devote to playing the game. Just because you've been around a year playing, maybe doesn't mean that your focus was the same as other people. Zill39, what's the rule of thumb for how much to pay for legendaries? For forging, you forge a legendary, like you'll notice the cost here is $17.22. It starts at 1,000. The math people in the Discord, multiple math people, came to the same conclusion, so I trust them, that currently you look at waiting for this cost to reduce below 1,111. So 1111 or below, forge another one. So I'm waiting for that to be efficient with my spend, and then usually I spend the rest of my scales on upgrading levels on a legendary. I've been real lazy about that lately and have not done it. But I need to. I need to sit down and just do some favor runs. I have a spreadsheet. I need to update my spreadsheet that tells me where I need to go to get favor next to raise levels, and because you need a certain minimum amount of favor in a campaign. Because the way this works is, if we look over here, this legendary effect, not only does it need scales for me to upgrade it, a large amount of them, it also needs a minimum level of favor in the campaign that it is based off of. So like this one, the deity that got rolled here is Tiamat. And it normally only takes an order of magnitude of favor, but it has a minimum requirement based off the level you're on. So I need to be much higher. I need much higher favor in that campaign to take this up further. And you have to spend like an order of magnitude of that favor. So the most efficient way to do it is to go do a deep favor run in that campaign when you're at the end of Zaka farm, and when you're at the end of your Zaka farm before you reset, upgrade your item, then reset, and it's like you never spent any favor at all. as long as you are in a farmable level for favor. So some of mine are higher than others, and maybe not the greatest to be able to go farm. Like, I don't think I can do an E70 push in Helm. I think that's there from conversions. I know Torm is. But the E40s, E50s, I can get that back easily. That stuff I could do. But yeah, that whole cost was to help normalize favor levels. Tazemi, how do you get golden epics? Primarily, it's by buying stuff in the shop. Primarily, if you come over here, you'll see this is a golden epic, the golden iris. This means there's a golden epic available. So if you were to purchase these chests with cash, this is the golden epic that comes with that purchase. Text not found. Oops. They took out the double dark mode, apparently, but they forgot to put in light mode, I guess. Text not found. Yeah, so that's primarily how you get them. Now, patrons do have some in their shop. Like here, this Watchful Order Staff is a golden epic for Ikoria. An animated gargoyle is a golden epic for Ikoria. So each patron has a couple for a specific champion. But they're the evergreen champions. They don't know to get them in other places. You have to spend cash. Occasionally, they might give them away as giveaways for like meta events. So when it's like the spring celebration, there might be some kind of thing where they give away a golden epic. That's not all. That's rare though. It's rare that they do that. Text not found mode is my least favorite shop mode. Yeah, I don't know, folks. I don't know. They're still working on the shop. It's still in kind of beta testing, so it's rolling out to more people, but yeah, it's going to take a little bit. It looks like I am out of questions, which is a shock. We're done. We're just going to end the stream now. No. That's not going to happen. We got another 10 minutes or so, folks. Tazemi from the questions, from the chats. How many meta events are there? Started playing 3 months ago. They're rarer. There's every quarter there is some kind of celebration that goes on, kind of a meta event celebration that goes on. So you'll see one of those every roughly 3 months. The next one due. Wait, is there like a summer celebration? Have we had our summer celebration yet, Trevor? I don't remember. I know there'll be like an anniversary. There's always an anniversary celebration, usually roughly in September. It might be the end of September. It's basically the anniversary of the game launch, because it started in like September of 4.5 years ago. Math on stream. 2017? Yeah, 2017. People are saying summer one is in July. Okay, yeah, that sounds right. I don't have the document up that would tell me like what I'm doing, and Dylan probably told me when it roughly is, and I don't remember. Yeah. So spring, summer, winter, and then there's like celebrations, and then there's an anniversary celebration that should be in like September-ish. What is Whackable Beaster? I see it loading sometimes randomly when I turn the game. I don't know. The only thing related to bees that I know of is a bee is the default image for everything in the game. So if an image fails to load, it's a bee. But I don't know what... Yeah, I don't know what the other thing is. Yeah, that you have to ask a dev about that. You have to ask the devs about that. I do, folks. I do not work. I am not a full time employee of Codename Entertainment. They literally just have me do these stream, like I'm a contractor. They have me do these streams primarily and one other thing. Uh, but yeah, I'm not a dev. I'm just a guy that makes guides for the game and streams, and they're like, "Hey, come answer questions for us." I'm like, oh, okay. Growlter, how do you get a different click damage element? Mine is always fire. They're skins. So there's a few. Oh, wow, that's real off. There was a patch yesterday that screwed some things up, folks, if you can't tell. So there's, you start with the default of the orange flame. There was a green flame one that I guess will probably end up in the shop at some point, at the gem shop at some point, maybe. It was an Acquisitions Incorporated tie-in. That code no longer works. The water and the snowball was a giveaway. And then the water is in the gem shop of the new store. So because I have the new store, I get the water one. Some people are saying green flames in the shop already. Oh, wow. Okay. If it's in the shop 3, yeah. So that kind of stuff will be in the shop for gems when you get shop 3, which is this shop. When you see this shop, you go to this gem item thing, and there'll be skins for your click damage. Snowball and green flame are in the new shop. Nice. I don't know these things because I already have them. Bill Sosky, how do you get the achievement in the event for Solis and Merylwyn? You don't have to do it in the event, but you just use the champions. Merylwyn's is literally just have 30 enemies on the screen at once, so you have to push deep with Merylwyn, which we're not doing here. Can we just maybe just kill the boss? Maybe, like, that'd be cool. And move further, but yeah, without 30 enemies on the screen, it won't pop. And for Solis's, you have to do a little more work, but it's basically they all come down to just using the champions. For Solis's, you have to switch through her stances and trigger her ultimate ability. That's an ability in her kit. It only triggers 100 every 3 minutes, so it'll take a while. There's more tips for that in my guides. I'm putting more specific tips for farmable things. And explaining how to do achievements in each champion's guide as the new guides are updating. Currently, the new version of the guides are only out for the core champions and these event champions right now. So, Looking Rider, how do you feel about Merylwyn as a champion? I love Goldfind. I love me a lot of Goldfind. Yeah, love me a lot of Goldfind. That's going to be her main use. As an in-game player, her primary use for me is going to be Goldfind and Azaka farming. But I like, her buff works really well with her, like a neutral party goes well with her affiliation. So as we see her full affiliation show up, she may show up stronger. The Goldfind is great. The Meat Grinder with its special effects is great. We'll see. As more of her affiliation arrives, that's what we'll see. I mean, I think that's part of your major niche with an affiliated champion is with your group. Wow, we need more of a group. Suzuki Boy, do familiar skins count towards blessings for skins? I don't think so. We still didn't beat the boss. I don't think so. I think it says doesn't it say champion skins? I really don't like that blessing, but so I think I just kind of forget about it. It's in one of the later ones, isn't it? Yeah, right. Costume party. Each champion skin. So no, the familiar skins don't count because it specifically calls out champion skins. That's what I thought. Question: how far did your Merylwyn get her item levels? Oh, good question. I don't know. I didn't look. The event's not over, so it's still going to go up. I will preface this. Average item level 113, so it's over 100, which is what I shoot. I shoot for 100 right now. I need to raise all of my item levels up, but my champions have a minimum item level. All my champions have a minimum item level of 100. Where do I Briv farm? Demon Gur. I specifically use Terror in the Dark. It's a lot more forgiving if you have a variable jump rate, which is what I started with. So that's where, and I've just stayed there. There are some faster places. I don't care. I find that that's fast enough for me. So I use Terror in the Dark in Sword Coast. Southern Ambush, is there a spot on the Discord for technical questions? Got a problem with my graphics card when I try to run Icy in the background. I don't know, Trevor, is that feedback? Would that be under the platform specific like bug channel maybe? I don't really know. Trevor's the community manager. He's actually the person that would answer that question. Yeah, that would work. So to get the platform-specific bug channel to show up, you have to go under the role. I think the roles channel, and you have to use the click on the response for your platform, and then it will show up. Trevor also says you could just ask the community in the tavern too. But yeah, go to roles and select your platform there, and then your platform-specific bug channel will show up. That's the only way to get bug channels to show up. T5 Cats, just now playing Seeds of Deceit. After boss 25 and 30, there was a long wait for things to move on. Yeah, that's a bug that's going on right now. I ran into it yesterday and most of last night, where changing zones would sometimes freeze on the black screen for multiple seconds. Unfortunately, it went out with the build yesterday, and that's probably not going to get fixed until Monday or Tuesday. I don't know. I don't know that they're going to have anybody working on that on the weekend. Silly Simon, final question. Ash has been my focus for DPS. Can spend 250 plus Timegate pizzas on Zorbu and Krond. That's a lot of Timegate pizzas. Which first? Wow. I mean, so Zorbu's going to work for you in some patron variants where you can't use a Shara. And their investment really is time. I mean, they have an item that's nice, that's good for you, but you need to invest some time into them more than anything else. Krond needs and Zorbu's formation agnostic, so you just throw him in with your best buffers and you go. Krond needs an entire formation built around him, and he needs good item levels for his survival of the fittest item. And everybody else that you're building around him is going to need good item levels. So Zorbu's the easier one to turn into another primary DPS to use. Krond is more difficult. There you go. Yeah, that's everything, folks. We're going to go out with another song. I don't remember which one it is. We did release the Kraken at the break. It's going to be Rise of the Tarrasque. Rise of the Tarrasque. And I just remembered, folks, I had my caption shut off for the second half of the show. My apologies. Dang it. Silly bugs. All right, folks, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Streams, there are no Idle Champion streams on Monday. There is a limited streaming schedule next week. They will post the schedule for next week, I believe, on Monday. My streams will happen. My normal streams on Friday and Saturday will happen, though. But most of the streams next week are not happening. Just so you have a heads up. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye, everybody.
There can be only one, or the world is undone in destruction. No one knows who it serves, what foul purpose confers its instruction. You've no choice when you hear it coming. All you can do to get through is start running. Rise of the Tarrasque. No one dares to ask how you fight it. If you do, you'll end up in a cast. Tarrasque, all your fears are masked. Defeat an impossible task. With a swipe of its tail, it will rend your chainmail. It's so tragic. It's unbeatable. shall reflect and repel all your magic. All the legends foretold it lay sleeping, but in divine wrath it starts creeping. Rise of the Taurus,